Welcome to Spark Sessions. I'm your host, Sonya Locke, and these girls are on fire. Today I'm joined by not one, but three incredible women who collectively have over 50 years experience hiring, building teams, and developing thousands of employees across the U.S. Today we're going to hear from them and get a true idea of the pulse of the workforce today and what it takes to be the next trailblazer of tomorrow. Welcome, Alba Andrade, Corporate Regional Recruiting Manager for EDS Service Solutions. Alba is a dynamic leader known for her infectious energy, her passion, and her extreme drive in building large-scale workforces all across the country. Today, as Corporate Recruiting Manager, she manages a staff of over 100 staffing specialists and recruiters, and her team alone last year sourced, interviewed, and recruited over 225,000 candidates. Beyond hiring, Alba is a mentor, a wonderful trainer, and has built a winning team underneath her leadership skills. Thank you. Next, we have Griselda Botello, Director of Talent Acquisition and Strategic Initiatives. Griselda has over 2 decades of experience working in building large-scale talent acquisition models, technology solutions, and risk management, and everything in between. As part of developing her teams, she has developed teams in 3 separate countries and all across the United States. As a technology strategist, she has worked on the strategy for workforce velocity and EDS track, blending and optimizing workforces through the use of technology as an innovator and a propeller. So thank you, Grease, for joining us today, and we look forward to your insights. And then finally, we have Gabriela Rader, Director of Human Resources for EDS Service Solutions, with over 3 decades of experience in everything from executive search to global program manager. Gabby's talent is building transformative workforce cultures. She is responsible for the people first philosophy of EDS Service Solutions and has built teams all across the country and the U.S. And she is, as a senior leader with EDS, she has shown where HR has taken a different role in what is business success and how it propels our companies forward. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for being here. And I look forward to diving into conversations about women leadership, about working across multiple generations, and what it takes to build a workforce that wins. So cheers to that, and thank you, ladies, for joining us today in this conversation. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having us.
So let's start with your fire starter moments. When did you find that your passion met your purpose?
Oh, I guess I'll start. I would have to say probably right out of college, right after I graduated, like every other college graduate. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Definitely wanted to go into HR. But I ended up getting hired for a staffing company, private staffing company in Orlando, and was given an opportunity to build business. I thought it was HR. It probably was to a certain degree, but I ended up working with clients. I was given the opportunity to really build relationships while dealing with our staff, right? Our temporary employees. So it was the beginning of me kind of balancing out what our clients needed, what we needed to do to grow our business, but at the same time, really understanding what the issues were from a staffing standpoint.
That's awesome. What about you, Grease? What did you find was your passion and your purpose?
For me, I think it was maybe a couple years into working at EDS whenever I first started interviewing a little bit more people in depth and was able to find those people that really deeply wanted an opportunity. From there, we were able to give them an opportunity to really shine. And that's been what I've been searching for and continue to do in my daily work, trying to find those people who have or want that opportunity that we can help them continue to grow.
That's great as well. What about you, Alba? When did your passion meet your purpose?
Well, for me, I think at a very young age, I've always been a little bit of a risk taker, and I've always been like a very social butterfly. So in combination with that, I kind of like to help people as well. So I feel like when I came to EDS, prior to that, I was doing like a little bit of real estate, and I couldn't really see myself committing to it. but I was interacting with people. And I think when I came to EDS, I think coming into recruiting, that really challenged me, because now we're doing always high volume hire. And also I get an opportunity to help people because now we're connecting these talents to an opportunity. So I felt there was my purpose.
So all of you guys have a very common thread with helping others and with a purpose and finding it and excelling at your career. So we talk about you guys' passions, which all have a very common thread. But tell me a little bit about when you felt like you really stepped into your power. Alba, when do you feel like you made it, that you actually stepped into your power as a leader?
Well, that's a great question, Sonya. And I wish I had one answer for you. I think I have had different phases of, oh, I think I'm stepping into my power. And then it was like realization that, no, this was just the first tier. There's a few more tiers to go. I think for sure my experience with Greece, kind of like moving out of the country, I think that was definitely a challenge where I was like, okay, I no longer have a safety net and I am an adult. I am in this position and we have to make it work. And I think one of the most exciting and yet challenging experiences that I've also had an opportunity to participate in was the moment we had that really big achievement with all of our clients. We were opening 5 locations nationwide, and we needed to coordinate with all of our recruiters to ensure that we had a smooth transitioning and a smooth opening day. I think for sure that was, hey, we're going full force. We are prepared, we're ready, we have a game plan in place. And definitely, I think that was one of the most challenging but empowering moment when we came to realization that, hey, we got this.
And that you led. That's when you kind of really stepped into being a leader, not just doing it, but actually motivating and inspiring your team to follow, right? And keep them going. Well, let's talk a little bit about the heat now. Give me some times where you've hit challenges in your career and how you've overcome them, or how it's made you stronger as a manager, as a leader, as a person.
I think I'll go. I think for me, at the end of the day, I think it's owning up your voice. And then not only that, but owning up your voice in a male-dominated industry. Not only as a woman, but I was very young as well. And then on top of that, Latina. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge coming into it. But I remember one clear advice from you, Sonya, that you basically told me, you're here, you have a voice, you have a seat, own up to it, say what you need to say, and we'll go from there.
That's a great
Wow, talk about empowerment.
Yeah. I also have to say, and you know this because we worked together with another project. Don't know if I can say that here or not, but when we worked together there, you know that I had a job. It was very structured. It was very predictable to a certain degree. It really wasn't, but predictable under my standards. And then you introduced me to EDS.
Actually, I tricked you into EDS. I mean, let's be fair about that.
This is your conversation. But then you said, could you just help me a little bit with EDS? And I said, I've got this full-time job that you hired me for. Of course, I'll do anything for you, Sonya, but I really thought it would be a part-time thing. And that was extremely challenging because that company was, the company that I worked for was a fraction the size of what we were building at EDS. But to actually know that we made, and it was not me, it was all of these people here, plus our teams, to know that we were part of making a huge impact and had to go through, I'm sure we'll maybe talk about this later, but all the challenges, whether it was the pandemic, whether it was your income statement or everything that was going on, nothing was aligned. But we had a team where everybody was just looking forward to say, okay, how are we going to make this happen? And it was through your leadership, quite honestly.
Well, I think that's where a lot of the challenges, we obviously are at a very hectic pace. I didn't mention, like I said, you're HR director for 7,000 employees, not just a couple, from all different walks of life. And we've always hit challenges along the way. And I think that, like I said, one of the things I know Greece that she firmly believes in, as we always say, oh, that was an uh-oh, that was a mistake, right? Whereas like, okay, but hey, we can't move forward if we're not learning. So what other things would you say to other women who make mistakes and how they go above that, or how they learn from it? Or can you think of any other times where you had a mistake that you really, really screwed up on, but but it ended up making you a better leader or a better, stronger manager?
I think I've done that often. I think it's part of our growth, right? To continue learning, to continue, even if we do make a mistake, we have to own up to it. I don't think you always have to be able to move forward and think of situations on how to fix it, right? Something happens, we have to come up with a solution and work towards it so it doesn't happen again. So we learn from it. So I think for any woman or any person in my capacity, I'd say that keep learning. It will happen, but you have to be able to get back up again and keep going.
Agreed.
So with Alba, you actually manage people much older than you, different genders,
Yes.
all across the board.
Yes.
Tell me how you navigate those challenges.
Well, from the very beginning, I think it was a lot to digest. To be very frank with you, I think that I came to a realization that it was a bigger challenge than I thought I was prepared for. And along my journey, I think I, first of all, have to thank everybody for their support. And immediately I'm thinking about you three women here, because you guys have provided me with unconditional daily support that I very much needed and I'm very grateful for. Especially like the younger generation who is looking to thrive in an industry that you kind of came to learn. And there are so many things to learn, right? So everybody here has so much experience compared to myself. And I'm working up to that. And so I learn every day, not only from your wisdom, but also from your experiences. You get to hear them and you get to also witness them yourself and you go, that's what they were talking about. And how do I manage different genders and different age groups? Honestly, as simple that it sounds, it is so complex. Transparency and communication and inclusiveness. And I stand by it. I think if you have a clear channel of communication of what your goal is, what your vision is, and expectations, most importantly, I think that that will allow them to understand your perspective, what you're looking to achieve, and it will very much motivate them to work with you in a more collaborate environment, and everybody's ideas, suggestions, and concerns are heard. And I think everybody brings their unique experiences and ideologies to the table that it will, instead of having one idea in mind, you have an opportunity to think outside the box, and you have a combination of so many different things like wisdom and experiences, and then also, as Gen Z likes to say, we like to challenge the norm. So we like to challenge you to think outside the box. We try to think of ways more efficiently to get things done. So I think those three things, communication, transparency, and inclusiveness, is what has helped thrive in a environment with different ages and different genders.
What about you, Grease? Like you said, you came into a very male-dominated industry. Also Latina, also a woman, and you were also very young when you started and was girl boss really early on. You know, how did you navigate those challenges?
I think at the end of the day, it's hard, but just like I was saying, I think one of the things that at the end of the day that we tried, there was tons of obstacles, right? Trying to communicate something to a person that is much older than you, that you know where the right steps were, right? You're looking at it on your side, right? It's not simple. It's not gray at all. It's very black and white. And sometimes them coming up with a gray situation, I don't understand, right? But like Alba was saying, I think the communication is very ideal. It's I think that's what's helped. And I think if I would have learned it earlier, I would have been much more efficient, I think that's the word, at a faster pace than what it took me. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge. But I do remember, I think it was an elevator ride that I caught you, Sonya, or that we walked down. I'm like, Grace, you were like, Grace, come on, you have so much to offer. You're here for a reason. Don't let them push you around. That's all I need. We'll go from there. But basically, I think at the end of the day, you were telling me, hey, it's time to go. You can do this. You're here, and you're here for a reason.
I think that kind of brings up your phrase that I love the most. I think everybody associates 2 words with grease, right? Let's go. All right, now let's fan the flames. Leadership takes fuel. What is it that keeps your fire burning?
A Red Bull. And cappuccinos.
The daily coffees. I would say that what keeps me going, okay, let's be real here, it's human resources. Every time I call someone, they're like, Gabby, what's going on? So is there a problem? Or somebody's calling me to complain. Rarely do I get a phone call that tells me that I'm just wishing me a good day, although I do get that from Alba. But I honestly can say this may sound corny, but what motivates me is every day is when I see the impact that we have as a company towards the employees that we have. When I see someone that starts off as a driver and gets promoted and has become an account manager, we have several people in our corporate office that have been promoted through the ranks. And I love seeing that. I love seeing that there's opportunity for maybe a generation or maybe even a specific gender or a class of people that felt that they may not have had those opportunities, and that we're doing that right then and there. So as bad as my day gets, when I get a phone call or a note, Alba is very good at this. When I least expect it, Alba reminds me of what impact, and it might not even be something that's even a big deal on my end, but she'll say how much something I said or did made an impact to her. And those are the things that really push me, honestly.
And I'm so flattered to hear this because I think I can kind of bounce back on that a little bit. As you all know, I'm probably the younger generation within our headquarters, and I have been so thankful for the opportunity, and I'm very thankful to my immediate boss, Grace, but of course to everybody else, my superiors, when it's Ms. Gabby, when it's Sonya, and all of my leaders. At a very young age, I think we all have a healthy balance of ambition, and I wanted that. I wanted to grow in my professional self, but also in my personal self. How can I develop and, improve my social skills? How can I become a better professional? And to this day, I'm still working on improving that. But I think I wanted to prove it to myself, and I think I also wanted to prove that through my work. I didn't want words to come out and say, hey, I'm capable of doing it. I think my work said it for me. And there's nothing more satisfying than that, than achieving that I'm showing you through my work that I am capable, and that I have learned to master certain skill sets that you need in order to fulfill that role. And I think that's one of the things that keeps fueling me every day is I learned it. I can actually go ahead and mentor somebody else. I can train other people to also learn these skills. And I think it's actually one of Greece's favorite sayings, if there's a will, there's a way. So.
And I think to add to that, I'm gonna sound super corny right now, but I think the stage that I'm in right now, I think my kids are my biggest motivators. Why? Why are my kids the biggest motivators? Because I want them to understand to see that their mom tried big things, that she wasn't right all the time, but she got back up and let's try it again, right? That she kept learning. I think professionally also, what keeps me going is what you guys are saying. I think I'm driven by impact. I think that's what you're saying too, Gabby. I want to see and continue to guide somebody from start to finish. I like seeing them through. I like, that's something that I really enjoy. And again, I like seeing them through from start one from point A to point B. So.
And you have given me that opportunity. Actually, I started as a caller at EDS. So one of the things that I really love about our company is that there's so many companies that say, hey, we love to promote from within, but the reality is that no, they're looking for somebody who already has these skill sets to place into these roles, and EDS gives a very fair opportunity to train you to be that person that is capable for that role. And so I'm very thankful.
And I would say that Greece, you and Alba, like I always talk to everybody about Greece. You came to work with me when you were what, 22?
I think it was 21.
21.
I know.
And now, I mean, you have been in, as I tell everybody, every single department, every single facet of the business, my right hand that I rely on more than anything. And to see what you did with your whole department, like the whole recruiting department, it's like a company within itself. And then with Alba coming in, and her at like 22 or 21, much younger than that. I think you were 20, right? When you started.
I think I was 19.
Oh my gosh. And to see that you not only, like said, what your greatest strength is as a leader. You're a leader, you're a mentor, and the impact that you make. And it's like completely hands off. I have no clue what you guys are doing over there. I don't ever remember half the names. I'm always like, I don't know, they got it. But it's like to see you as a leader, to build that and to build that team, I think to me was the most impact. And it's something you should be proud of and your kids will be proud of, for sure, I know. And for them to see that strength in you and see you never get down and you never, like said, the phrase always is, let's go, okay?
Yeah, let's get to work. Let's
sometimes
go.
there's oops, but that's okay. You just move on. That was another day, right?
I agree with that, Sonya, and I think that is something that Grace actually exercises on her daily. Is not only is she there to support you, she challenges us. And I can say this because I work with her every day. She challenges us every day, but she's also there to support us. And I fully agree with everything you said. She thrives as a leader, and she tries to mold us and mentor us through our leadership experience as well.
I think that's. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I think that's what again you guys are asking. You're asking what drives you, and that's what drives me. I love having that interaction with my team and being able to provide guidance to you guys, and that's what drives me. That's what gets me up every day.
I was just going to say, and you mentioned it earlier, when Greece moved to Mexico, I saw it. I saw it in your I saw it.
Which part did you see?
You're so confident. And then I just started, seeing you kind of shrivel like, I can't do this. And I'm like, yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
First of all, we're here, but you don't even need us. You already had it, but you just had her as a crutch, and she just needed you to do it.
Well, I'm very honored to hear all of the feedback and my growing journey as a professional, as a young professional. And I'm really happy also to hear the feedback on Greece that fuels her, that motivates us, because actually, I think I can speak for my generation, Gen Z. We always look for a purpose. We look where we can bring value into the bigger picture. And when we feel valued, that's something that Greece does, is she makes us feel valued. She makes us feel like we're a part of something big. She makes us feel like we're a part of a project and like our impact matters. And well, that's kind of something that fuels me too. Not only being able to pass down my skills to somebody else, but to know that I did that. And also that, I'm learning how to do it from her, and that you're motivating other people to do it as well is something to look forward every day. And it is very fulfilling.
Thank you, Alba, for bringing up what I actually brought all of you guys here to talk about today, was the different generations, being Gen Z and being Gen X and Millennial right here. But today, and the first time in history, there are 6 generations in the workforce. This has never happened before. But we have the silent generation, the baby boomers, the forgotten generation, Gen X, the millennials or Gen Y, Gen Z, and now our new emergence of Gen Alpha that's come in. And these, I believe, play an important part of our identity and our layers, right? Because each one of these generations have been affected by socioeconomic changes or wars or pandemics, and also, very importantly, technology. And how do these kind of shape us as a leader and as a manager, and how do these communication styles differ between these different generations? So I'm going to start with our forgotten generation. Because as the millennials and the baby boomers were fighting and complaining about each other, the entire world forgot that Gen X actually existed, and we were like a blip. And so everybody kind of left us alone, which was really, we actually kind of appreciated that, right? But we were the latchkey kids. Most of us came from dual income families, but not necessarily where it was the woman was on a career path. It was a lot of times it was out of necessity. We went through great recessions. We saw the fall of the Berlin Wall. We saw the end of the Cold War. And of course, we made the most important thing, and we went from analog to digital. We were still around when you could say, you've got mail, and that actually was really exciting. But the other parts on it is, one of the things I think is really interesting is that it's also the generation that coined the mommy track. And that is because so many women from our generation, one, they did start a career. They were empowered to believe, I can do anything. If I want to be a president, I can be. It was really the first generation that I think really had that empowerment that was given to them. But being stuck within the traditional and the more disruptive side sets, there was a very clear choice, and it was often career advancement or to take the more traditional role of raising your family as you were kind of taught from your generations. And I think that makes a really interesting dynamic, and it also is a spawn of a lot of entrepreneurship, because many women, they had their kids, they raised them, they felt good about that, and that made them proud. But they had these skill sets and these powers, so they either re-entered the workforce, or a lot of them actually just went out on their own. There was a huge spawn of entrepreneurship actually from our generation, which I find interesting. But I would say that how they describe Generation X is adaptable, pragmatic, resilient. They honor stability. They were more much onto a stability, and they valued learning, relationships, and mentorship versus other types of values. And they really kind of redefined some of the leadership styles. But what would you say is that it was most misunderstood about Gen X, or how do you feel that really describes you or your track or identify with?
So first of all, it's kind of crazy that as you were going through that list, I must have checked most of those boxes. I did the corporate ladder. I did the mommy track. It could have been something on my end that I felt like I had to make a choice. I was sacrificing one for the other. And I certainly didn't sacrifice raising my kids. I actually loved that period, and that helped me grow personally and professionally. But I had to laugh. You were talking about technology and saying you've got mail. At the time that I was out having my kids, LinkedIn came into the picture. And I just remember, you started talking and I thought, oh my gosh, LinkedIn. I had no idea what that was about. Microsoft 360 or whatever it was with Outlook and sharing calendars. There's a funny story to that I'll save for another time. But I think I was ready to learn, find a mentor, ready to kind of see what else. I felt like I was so young, and I was in my mid-30s, early 30s. Mm-hmm. I was ready to take on. And it's kind of like what you said, that our parents taught us you can be whatever you wanted. It was never an option for me. I never thought that I had a disadvantage, ever. And if there was a disadvantage, it was because I didn't try hard enough, mm-hmm. or I should have done this or this long. The stability piece too, I really, we were taught, you tell me, to stay with a company for a really long time. And obviously, as we all know, that's changed. That perception has changed when they see somebody that's been there for 5, 10, 15 years, God forbid. So I do think sometimes that if there's this misunderstood, there is such a thing. I think that I was telling Alba earlier that maybe it's this thought that we live to work, because we want to accomplish something, we want to do something, whether it's parenthood or whether it's our professional lives, we just have to accomplish something.
That's really awesome. Now, of course, it's Gen Y, or the millennials, and boy, have they had lots of conversations about them over the years, haven't they? So, you guys, your technology was just part of your life, right? And you expected it to be seamless. You also was the first generation that really had globalization because of technology, you know, it was really a global society, and you valued diversity more than anything else, right? So diversity and inclusion. And you guys entered the workforce are typically with extremely high ambition, extreme confidence, and really wanting to climb quickly, always asking for feedback and, hey, what's next, what's next, what's next? And I think that, you know, we both can identify with working with so many millennials. But at the same time, you were complained about, right? You were entitled, you were job hoppers, you know, you didn't put in your dues and everything. That's what at least the older generation would say. But you're also the disruptors. I mean, you think about Mark Zuckerberg and Travis Kalanick and all the disruptors, they come from Gen Z, right? Or Gen Y, sorry. And, you know, I think a purpose-driven and activism. I mean, you guys are also the inventors of the Me Too movement. That came from millennials. So, you know, how do you feel in terms of what they say about millennials? And also, too, as I go about leadership. Leadership is that you believe in peer collaboration, much more so than mentorship or traditional hierarchy. I think questioning the system at all times and trying to break the system down is really a big part of the millennial culture that most people have seen. So how would you respond to those misconceptions and criticisms to really explain what you really feel as far as your generation?
You know, I think at the end of the day, I think it's right? I think everybody feels that the millennials feel that they are entitled, but I think because we're a little bit more purpose driven, I think I can consider ourselves a little bit more disruptive because we wanted to break up some of the systems that were no longer working for us. And you know, at the end of the day, someone has to do it, right?
Right.
And I think we did it, like you were saying, peer to peer, because we had tons more globalization, tons more knowledge of everything. But yeah, I think we are breakers of the status quo, right? We wanted to change something that no longer was working for the generation, so we did. And then I think at the end of the day, I think it is a misconception, I think, well, at least for me, where the folks are that we are job hoppers, because I've been with EDS, I've been with you, Sonya, for about 16 years, but I think it's because I have found purpose, because I have found the purpose that I was looking for, and I was able to evolve and change through every stage. And then on top of that, because I was able to evolve and to change, I found my purpose, and I found what I needed to continue to work for. So yes, I think it's all true in certain respect, but I think we felt that we did it for a reason, right? Yeah.
Continuously change. Continue. I mean, I think that's one thing I can also say about you, why you have been stable, is like you are always hungry to learn more, to change something, to find something new, to do it, and to take that guts to do it. And I think that's what your power is.
I think that's what resonates too with the majority of the folks, but with the millennials. But I think whenever we find what our purpose is, we're able to stick with it and to be 100% loyal with it. But we have to find the drive and have to find what will continually break that status quo.
Yeah. And I think the other part that I didn't mention, which is like you guys were the first ones that mentioned work-life balance and started asking for work-life balance, which now we call work-life integration. But now we get back to Gen Z, which talk about work-life balance as no longer like or work-life integration is no longer a possibility. It is a demand, right? Or at least that is what the perception is, right? So with Gen Z, you know, you guys are natural born problem solvers. I mean, you guys have been through, not only are you guys bombarded with technology, you see it at every single moment. The globalization is at your fingertips on every social channel you're at. When you open the phone, you are bombarded from the entire world and you see those problems, right? You know, you guys it was the start of all the mass shootings, the school shootings, you know, that kind of fear that we have that's really prevalent in our society right now. And of course, most importantly, the pandemic. I mean, you saw the world shut down, and that was generally at the early parts of your career or in your education, the most pivotal part of a young person's journey. So other characterizations that have been said, because you guys get a lot of rap too, or a lot of conversations. You do, but too sensitive, unrealistic, lots of demands. Of course, you guys have been also termed the quiet quitting generation. But looking at the other parts, you guys are so technologically advanced. You adapt them, and like I said, this generation is the most problem solvers. And the ones that I say is like, basically, they're always like, why? Like, what can I do? Like really questioning what is the norm and what it should be, and how to fix those systems. And I think you also equated it more as you have to have purpose. And purpose is more than just like your work's purpose, but your life's purpose, and how that resonates, and that you have more than just going to the job 9 to 5, right? And that is why you see things like travel and just experiences, even on like the consumerism is totally different from Gen Z. So how would you say that you feel like your generation is misunderstood, or do you feel like that resonates?
Well, wow. I feel like everything that you just said is to a certain degree spot on. And in all transparency and all like frankness, I think everything about the misconceptions is true. Well, let's start with that first, because yes, we're looked at as, oh, you're too sensitive, but we are also problem solvers. I think that is natural, at least for myself. I come across a issue, a problem, or a challenge, and the very first thing I do is, well, how do they usually solve it, and how else can I solve it? Like, how can we explore different options? How can we get more innovative to be able to explore solutions more efficiently versus, and there's this saying, no offense to the other generations, well, if it's not broken, it doesn't need to be fixed. Okay, and we are the very first, I think, to challenge that norm. And we challenge, I think, other generations to come out of their comfort zone. And I don't see that as weak. I don't see that as sensitive either.
So a little bit of misunderstandings, right?
Yes, a little bit of a misunderstanding. And everything else that you said is also true. I mean, we have grown up to seeing a lot of disasters and a lot of things we had to get very quick, we had to adapt to, and we all saw this through technology. We saw it on social media. So I think it has had a lot of influence, and especially a really big misconception is we tend to put mental health first over work, and we're not loyal employees, that we're also job hoppers. I don't think that's the case. I think, and that's one thing that you said, is we like to ask why. And the reason why we like to ask why, dun, 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 is because we just want to have a purpose. We want to feel included, and we want to feel like we are a part of an impact. We want to feel like we are needed and we're valued. And so I feel like that's kind of what drives us. That's a part of our fuel. We want to grow, but we also want to help improve. In our mind, it's like, okay, well, it's not broken, but how else can we do it efficiently? If it's taking you an hour to do something, how can we cut it down to 30 minutes? And is that the only right way to do it? And we like answers. We ask a lot of questions. It's not necessarily that we like answers. I think we just like to see the bigger picture. We also like to pick your brains. Because we are the younger or towards the younger end of the generation, we want to learn from you guys. How do you think? And I think that's really funny. We were talking earlier today, is a lot of our older generations say, well, this is the goal, execute it. They're very results oriented, and we say, but why? And it's like, get it done, please. And we go, okay, well, we want to understand the bigger picture, because we want to know, if this doesn't work, can we do this? Can we do that? So I definitely would say that to a certain degree, if we don't have that purpose, we don't feel like we serve a purpose, then yeah, we're disconnected and we're probably demotivated. But if we have that, which I have found here at EDS, I feel heard, I feel a part of something big, and I think that's what drives me every day, is being able to create an impact, not only for what I do daily, but also to the recruiters and everybody else who is learning these skill sets, and being able to just be a part of something. Inclusive, transparency, and communication, I think for us is what helps serve our purpose in whatever field it is that we're concentrating in. That's what's going to make us loyal.
And I think that is like really what brings it a lot too, is like there is misconceptions about the different generations or criticisms that is a lack of understanding, right? Is like what is your primary goal and your purpose, you know, or what is your continuous learning and your ability to transform and change things. And I think that employers that fail to recognize that there is something more important than just, you know, no, this is the way we do it, and not recognize the different perspectives from each one. I think that's where there's a lot of failure points and why they don't have the loyalty or they have the job hoppers, you know, it's just they haven't found a place. So with all three of you guys, very different generations, you know, but what do you learn from each other? And how do you change your communication style or leadership style, or do you with dealing with different people from different generations?
Oh, sorry. Can I go first?
Yes, of course.
I think for me or from like Gabby, I've been able to learn to adapt and like you guys are saying, right? Take the situation. We have to take it. Adaptability and grit. I think that's what I've learned from Gabby, right? To be able to continue to do what we're doing, be able to change and switch directions to wherever it comes. But from Alba, you know, I think you get so used to working with a generation that's focused, or generations that are focused, and okay, let's go get the items done. But one of the things that I've learned, and I have had to change and evolve myself, is with the newer generations, I have to be able to express, I think, get out of my comfort zone times 20, right? Because I'm used to, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, but then I have Alba, why? Why do we have to do it? Why do we have to do it that way? Why this? I'm like, okay. So it has been able to change the way that I communicate, but I think it's also made me a better person, because I've had to be more transparent, be more try and give better, clearer communications whenever we're trying to do something, versus what we were previously used to. Like, okay, we get this done, we have to do it, let's go. But now it's okay, let's go, but let's explain the bigger picture, right? And before it wasn't like that, but I think I've grown from it, honestly.
I can second to that. I have seen her thrive in her leadership role. I think at first, when I was like a caller, she was like, this is what you need to do. Yes, ma'am, I will do it. And then I think now, one of the reasons I've stayed for EDS so long is not only the amazing, and I can't say it enough, the amazing leadership and support that we have had, but I have seen her care about what I need in order to grow and what I need in order to understand my task. And instead of just saying, here's your assignment for the day, I see her compose these structured expectations. So this is our goal, this is what we're trying to achieve, and here's why. And that helps by 1,000, because now we feel like, well, we're not just instructed to complete a task, fulfill a task. Now we know that we're helping for a bigger reason, and we feel involved in something. So you have a purpose. Yes.
Yeah, no, and I think for me, again, as I continue to do it and continue to work with the folks, I feel like I'm also growing as well. So it's been.
I was about to say, you guys kind of answered my next question. So I because I described you guys as three different types of leaders. You were a visionary, or you were a visionary leader, because you are very pragmatic. You see all angles, that part where it's like, you can't go and tell Gabby, okay, this is what we're going to do. Nope, she's going to ask you everything about all 360. And if you don't have the answer, you're not going to be able to answer. And then, I described as a transformative leader, because you are that, let's go, let's just keep pushing, Nothing is beyond your reach. You always are changing and transforming and going forward. And you, dynamic, because you're always going to ask why, right? Because you want to know everything and how that plays into how you do something. So, I think that, like I said, you guys answered perfectly on how you guys have complemented each other, because you guys, all your management style, I think, has changed from working together, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially with working at EDS with our departments in our corporate office. We have we have every generation. I mean, we don't have the silent generation there, but we just have the Gen Zs, we've got the Gen X, the Gen Y. It's been wonderful for me. I have learned, you were talking about the wisdom from us and our experience, and I have learned so much just in how you think. And if we want to move forward and achieve our objectives and our goals, I have to know what motivates you. I have to know how to speak to you, right? You meaning in general. Of course, you're Gen Z. And then I'm not going to lie too, my kids are Gen Zers. So it's been incredible when we tend to bring work stuff home and I'll say, okay, here's the situation. And they are, they're just so precise at, I'll say this person felt this way and this person felt this way, a Gen Zer. And they're so clear about why that was the case. They didn't even question it. They're like, yeah, that makes sense. Because this, that, and I'm like, how? Why does that make sense? That doesn't make sense. Why this and that? So understanding that and knowing that we're gonna have more and more generations. In order for us to grow, we're gonna have to evolve. And it's a learning experience for me. And I have never been the type of person that this is how I think, this is how it always should be. But I think through our company and just through the people that I've had to work with, I've adjusted naturally.
And I love that you actually use that expression, adaptability. And I think for us, we're so flattered to hear that we are a part of that, because we learned so much from you guys. And one of the things that I get on my daily is, well, you should do it like this, because back in my day when I did it this way, this is what resulted. And we sit there and we listen to how they did it. And then here comes my question, which sometimes frustrates a lot of you guys. So why did you do it that way? Did you think about doing this? When they go, that's the way I did it. So that helps us too. Like, it helps us avoid making the mistakes. And we really appreciate that. So I think all of our generations and all of our questions, our skill sets and our wisdom, our experiences all together help us thrive with all the generations included. So that's what makes us successful.
So it's a perfect segue to a little segment I like to call Passing the Torch. So if you could give any advice to a younger woman entering the career, such as your daughter Mia, Gabby, or to perhaps your younger self, Alba, from not too long ago, or even to, say, your daughter, Grace is still probably 10 to 15 years from even entering the workforce, what advice would you give them, knowing that they are going to be dealing with multi-generations? This is not going to go away. It's going to go further and further. And looking back at all the things that we talked about with our challenges and our motivations, what kind of advice would you give those people?
I think I would tell Zoe, I think it's okay. I think at the end of the day, it's okay, right? Stand tall, stay rooted. You can be ambitious. You can't slow down, right? There's not a right or wrong thing, but I think pushing, working hard, standing tall, and learning as you go, I think that would be the best advice for me.
For me, with my daughter and also my son entering the workforce, and because of what I do in human resources, these poor things have had to hear me coach them through the years. And I'm not going to lie, I'm sure it's rooted in some of the things that I wish I had done. And one was take chances. I took chances, or I think I thought these were chances, but there were so many more opportunities, and I really think I feared failure. And now I look back and I think, oh my gosh, just check it out. Do it. If you fail, you'll learn. And I think you've been great at this, Sonya. You've shared that with me, but I've also lived it. Like, your failures are your best lessons. And you can only go forward from there. So I'm thankful that I think both kids have picked up on that, because I've ingrained it in their head growing up and because it affected me so much, that I want them to take chances. And yes, if they need to slow down, they slow down. If they mess up on a decision, okay, that's a lesson. How did you learn from that? How can you grow? And it's not the end of the world, because when you're at that age, and I would love to hear what you're going to say about this, but it seems like, and it might just be my children or maybe their friends, but it seems like, wow, this decision is the end all be all. And I do remember feeling that way.
Yeah.
And you're in your 20s, right? So that's what I would say.
What would I tell younger Alba? Well, let's start off with, I think earlier today I said that when I was younger, I had a very healthy level of ambition to grow. And I think I would tell her, don't be so asphyxiated with the entry-level position you're going for in a company, but look for a company that's willing to invest in you for the skills that you have and that you're able to develop versus your age. I think that if the company that you are looking to incorporate yourself into is willing to see past your age and able to mentor you, guide you, and give you the opportunity to excel in what you're learning, that's where you should invest your time. That's where you will grow.
Do you feel like and I think we all have gone through this, that feeling of like, oh my gosh, every decision like this is so paramount at your age. Do you feel that way, or do you think that now you've been around the block enough that you're starting to understand that you are going to have many journeys and many challenges that you can go through?
Well, so I think maybe 2 years ago, if you would have asked me that question, I would have said yes. Every decision kind of feels that way. But I would like to think I've been around the block. I would like to feel that I have had enough exposure. I think that for the last couple of years, I've had sufficient exposure where I have been in different scenarios where I had to think fast, act fast. And I think this has allowed me to really exercise my problem-solving skills and allowed me to thrive even when I didn't know I was going to thrive, and that's okay. And I think that's what everybody else is saying, is that it's going to be okay. But I think I would like to go ahead and just highlight that the company matters, and I think their support matters. It matters if they are able to invest in you, and that's probably what I would tell my younger self.
Sonya, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I've been asked this question a lot. That I think a lot of it is that the journey is more important than the destination. You know, I thought I had my life planned out with college, what I was going to be. I was going to be a professor, and everything was going to go on this. And it took unexpected turns. And I think the learnings from those turns is the most important part of the journey, right? And that's how you grow, is the constant learning and constant evolving, you know? All right, now let's get honest. Have you ever had a moment in your life, in your career, where you thought, am I really supposed to be here? The room says yes, but you do not really know if you actually are supposed to be there. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions, and I want all of you guys to answer honestly and truthfully, and raise your hand or say yes, okay? Have you ever set extremely high standards for yourself and feel like a failure if you don't meet them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever found, and I'll give myself a raise too. Have you ever found yourself working longer or harder than necessary to prove your worth?
What time do you guys leave?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Have you ever believed your success was due to luck or external factors rather than your own skills?
Yep.
Yes.
Have you ever avoided certain challenges or opportunities because you were afraid of being exposed as not good enough?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever doubted your own abilities even when others say that you are highly competent? Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Have you ever compared yourself to others and feel like you just don't measure up despite your accomplishment?
Yes.
And when you receive praise or recognitions, have you ever felt uncomfortable or downplayed your achievements? Yes. So I think you guys answered yes to all of them, and I did as well, which actually, KPMG, this is called the imposter syndrome. And while it affects men and women, 75% of women in leadership were tested and answered yes to all of those questions. That at some point in their career, they have all had that feeling of the imposter syndrome, or having to try to prove their worth. So I hope that you guys don't all feel that way still continuously, because the next thing I want to ask you is how do you quiet those doubts? And what advice would you give to someone else struggling with that? Because a lot of women coming up, they do doubt themselves and they feel like an imposter. How do you quiet that and empower them?
Wow, that's a very powerful question right there. Yeah, I think it's gonna take me a second to think on it. But first, I think I would like to say that that's something that maybe it's not natural. I think me as a woman, as a girl, I think it is natural. It is a natural thought that crosses mind is, well, am I really fit for it? Like, am I really capable of doing it? And I think something that Grace had said earlier, I don't necessarily want to say it's because, it's a cultural thing or anything, but in a male-dominant industry, I think we are almost programmed, if you will, for lack of better words and explanation. You're almost programmed that you have to show your worth and show that you're competent. So it may be not normal, but up to my generation, it almost feels like it's normal. It's something that it's unspoken, but it's something that we have to show.
I think that's very true. I actually was asked this question last week on an interview, and it was about how did you navigate through coming in with transportation and very male dominated in my early starts of my career. And I was like, I felt like I had to know everything. Mm-hmm. I over-researched everything. I had to know everything that was going on. I was like, I don't know if that's the right answer. I think right now I'd say to others is, you have to have your own belief. And if you're there, you know what? You belong there. So now just own it. Yep. Own it and continue your path and stop beating yourself up sometimes.
I really agree with you, Sonya. I think that maybe a way to silence that is let your work speak for itself. Because if what you're doing is already successful and you're seeing that it's successful here at EDS, and maybe we can use you here for a very brief moment as an example. I mean, you are a very successful woman in the industry, and our company, when I first came to the company 8 years ago, we started off very small because it was me and another caller. We started really small, but I mean, I have firsthand experience along with you ladies, how rapidly we have grown. And that is a statement for itself. So I think once you see the results and you see that they are successful results, that's the fastest way to silence all those doubts.
Even for yourself now, that you know that you're realizing that you're doing something right? And at least for me, it's always been, I think, like you're saying, like Alba was saying, you're obviously doing something right if the results continue to point into a certain direction, right? But on top of that is be the risk taker. Don't be scared. You were talking about fear, right? You were speaking about fear. Be the risk taker. Jump.
Right.
And I think one of the questions that all of you guys asked, and I would say this is why EDS is successful and why we have grown so much, is the one about perfectionism. We all know that. But I think also too, surrounding yourself with all of you guys as leaders, you guys have had to learn things that you never knew before. Putting roles that you've never done before. Yeah, I know you still are mad at me for giving you HR, but learning to be excellent, right? And your own self, it's almost for your own internal drive. I think with all of you, it's your own internal drive that you want to be good at what you do and learn it. And actually I was looking at a study, and if you spent 16 minutes a day on one of your greatest skills, you will be the top 1% of the world in that skill, And I think that that's really what kind of continues to drive us. And I think more, instead of doubting ourselves, we should be empowering ourselves and surrounding ourselves with leaders like you that I'm very thankful for. Now, before we wrap up, I'm going to do a little segment called Rapid Fire Q&A. These are very simple questions, so you don't have to think hard. But I want to thank you guys so much for all of your insight that you guys have given today. It's just been an incredible conversation. All right, so let's go. Grease, what's the boldest decisions you've ever made?
The boldest decision I've ever made was probably stepping away or changing the course of a current project.
Gabby, did it turn out well?
At the end.
Gabby, favorite mantra or quote?
I would have to say, you are stronger than you'll ever think you are.
I like that.
That's a good one. I tell myself that every time that, any doubts or anything that comes to mind, I say that and it keeps me going.
In HR, I believe you do.
Alba, what is your leadership superpower?
I think my superpower is transparency and communication. I love to, and to some extent people say over communicate, but you just need to know what's going on. You just need to know where you're going. Communication, transparency, and let's go.
Grease, your leadership superpower.
I think at the end of the day, it's the vision, the overall goal, the transformation or the end result, right? The guidance of a person.
I agree.
And your superpower?
I would say communication and understanding what makes people tick. And so if this person is this way and this person is this way and we all have to work together, I try my best to figure out, or I think I have a strength in figuring out what makes us all work and collaborate.
Find
Yeah.
middle ground.
You get 2 questions, coffee, tea, or cocktails?
Oh my God.
It's definitely coffee and cocktails. Gen Z?
I want to thank you so much for coming here today and all of your insights and wisdoms and everything. To wrap it up, we're going to do a little final spark. What is your spark? What keeps you fired up every day?
I'll start. I would have to say that in looking back at my life, I've been extremely fortunate with everything, really, with what's been given to me, what I've learned, what I've developed. And I think just that the gratitude is what keeps me going. I want to have that impact on somebody else. I want to see the results of my work impact somebody, develop or learn. And hopefully provide that sense of gratitude to that person as well.
I think for me, it's like you were saying. I think being empathetic and the continual learning. I think at the end of the day, I want to continue to learn. I want to continue to strive for more. But if that also comes with continuing to be empathetic and continuing to guide and mentor somebody to do better, I think that's what drives me.
That's actually really funny because I can definitely resonate with both of them. I think what fuels me is the positive environment that we create every day. I love coming into work. I love what the people I work with. And I think I also want to do that. I want to also mentor, I also want to train those who are uprising to have the same skill sets, to have some kind of support into the roles that they're growing into and the leaders that they will become.
I think you are a spark every time you come into the office. And I gotta ask you one more thing. Have you got Grease to like to have hugs yet?
She does give me side hugs now. Sometimes.
Actually comes
Yes.
to me now.
Okay, well, she's creating a lot of jealousy right now. That's okay. I'm a big girl.
I do want to add to something that Alba had said. One of the things that I believe in and that I have shared with everybody in the office, whether they want to hear me or not, is we spend so many hours at the office that it better be fun.
Yes.
And we have worked so hard. We didn't realize we were working towards that, but it has happened through the years, through EDS's inception, and for all of us who have been there, and to see how different the culture is. I mean, people interview with us and they're like, what is going on here? No one's being fake. We really have fun, and not every day's not always going to be perfect. There are big mistakes that happen, but there is a very strong level of respect among all of us. And I think that with that same gene that we all share as far as having fun, being positive is huge. Because our industry can change and does change every day.
And it's contagious. Our
Absolutely
positivity is contagious. We were at a job fair last week for the last 2 weeks, and our table was line after line. Sophie, you won't let me lie. It was so packed with candidates that just wanted to get our flyer, wanted to hear about us, because it's not like we're being forced to do it. We like our job, we're positive, we're high energy, it's very dynamic and it's contagious. So I definitely agree and second to what you're saying, Ms. G.
Well, everybody has always asked me, I always say the most important part and what to attribute our success to is people and our culture. And you guys are all the ones that have built that culture. And that's one of the things that it is so amazing. And you're right, that is what breeds success, what brings positivity. It really is like the lifeblood of a company. And it's very important with all of you guys' role. So 3 generations, 3 amazing women, 1 shared fire. Thank you for joining us on our first episode of Spark Sessions. Until next time, keep the fire burning.